Hello YouTube, and thank you for tuning in to another Hanging with Heavy video. Hey, if you remember on my last video, I showed you how to take your brand new oxy-acetylene outfit, how to get it set up, and how to go ahead and turn it on and shut it down. Well, today I'm going to show you how we're going to properly light your torch and then shut your torch down until you get ready to use it for the next time. Now, there's a couple of things I didn't go over with you on the last video. You're going to need a couple wrenches. Number one, you're going to need an 1 1/8" open end wrench, and you're also going to need an 11/16" open end wrench. Now I found these at the flea market. What I'll do is I'll cut this wrench off here, I'll cut this wrench off here, I'll weld the two wrenches together, and those two wrenches, or that one combination wrench, will allow me to set up and take apart my oxy-fuel system. So with that in mind, 1 1/8" and the 11/16" wrench. Make sure you've got a pair of them. Of course, you can always use the all-8ths crescent wrench. I don't really recommend that, okay? I don't really recommend using the all-8ths crescent wrench. And another thing, those fittings that you're going to put together are brass on brass. You don't really have to gnash down on them really tight. Once you get them together with your wrench, just give them a little tightness until you can almost just hear it squeak a little bit, and then you're done, all right? There's no need to really gnash down on it. If after you put your bottles together and you leak test them, which I'm going to show you how to do, you're going to need to check and make sure that you don't have them too tight. If you tighten them up too much, you can tear the threads up. So, Hang with Heavy as I show you how to properly light your torch and adjust it for any tip that you're going to use. All right, let's take a look here. Now, then, these are our tanks, and yesterday in my video I showed you how to energize these tanks. So today I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to energize them with you. We're going to light the torch. Now, first things first. Remember what I told you yesterday about the heat of recompression? Never stand directly in front of the regulator. Always stand off to one side. Make sure that you can look at it, but you're not in front of it. If something does happen to go wrong and this explodes, nothing will come out at you and strike you in your chest or face. So don't be afraid. I've never seen that happen. But safety is a good idea. First thing I told you was to make sure that your regulator adjusting screw is turned out until it turns freely. And I've seen that I can do that. I'm going to open up my acetylene side or my fuel side. First I'm going to open it up slowly. Very good. And you can notice it popped up to about 100 pounds. Now, acetylene, only open it 1/4 turn, just until you get pressure onto the regulator. You don't have to open it up any more than that, all right? Now then, on the oxygen side, let's take a look. My regulator adjusting screw is backed all the way out. I open up my valve slowly. I see I've got about 2,100 pounds of pressure in there. Now, once I've got this, I can go ahead and set my pressures that I'm going to need for my cutting torch. Now today I'm going to show you on a tip that will cut 1/4 inch thick material. So my settings for that are going to be 5 pounds on my acetylene side and about 25 pounds on my oxygen side. For us lighting the torch today, these settings will be okay. However, if you are going to be cutting material, when you got your torch, there was a chart that came with it. This chart has the exact pressures that you need to cut the exact size material with the tip that you're using. Now, we're going to get into that when we talk about the cutting portion of it. But for right now, we're just lighting the torch. So, now that I've got my pressures, set and I can energize my torch, I'm going to take my cutting torch. Now this is a 2-piece torch. This is a cutting head and this is a cutting body. I have attached to it some flash arresters, so in case there's a flash back, it can only go this far. The first thing I'm going to want to do is take my oxygen valve, that's the one with the green hose, and I'm going to open it up all the way. Okay, what that does for me is put oxygen up to this point right here. whenever I want to cut with it, I'm going to depress the oxygen cutting lever, and you can listen. I depress the oxygen cutting lever, and take a look there. That hole right dead center is what we call the cutting orifice. And when I press this lever, air or oxygen rolls through that. This valve controls my preheating oxygen. And let's take a look at that again. You see the holes around the outside? Those are called preheating orifices. And this valve controls that. Onto my acetylene side, when I open the acetylene valve, I'm putting gas flowing through the torch body, through the head, and through the cutting tip. Now, let's go ahead and light this torch. There is only one correct way to light an oxy-fuel torch, and that is with a spark lighter. Can you use a lighter? Absolutely. Can you use a pack of matches? You sure can. Can you tap your electrode onto the material and get a spark and light it? Well, I've seen that done too, but that's not the way to go. So, pay attention as I light this torch using the only approved way of lighting a torch, and that is with a spark lighter. This spark lighter has got a cup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that cup full of acetylene gas, and then I'm going to make a spark. Now, if I hold my spark lighter like this and I try to make a spark, it's going to be very difficult. So, I hold my spark lighter like this. This finger behind that knob right there, with this thumb pointing down, and I push my spark lighter, and I get a spark every time. First things first, I'm going to open my acetylene valve, 1/4 turn. I'm going to fill the cup, and I'm going to light the torch. Now, watch this. As I make this torch, I can make the flame come right to the tip. Can you see the amount of smoke coming off of that? That's not good. That's not what you want, especially in a closed shop. Increase your acetylene valve and increase your pressure, your valve here, until the smoke disappears and the flame jumps away from the tip. Can you see how it's jumped away? Now, I'm going to turn it back until it just barely joins the tip. I'm going to give it a little extra gas. I'm then going to take my oxygen valve up here, now once I get it set to this point, this is what's known as a neutral flame. I'm going to depress my cutting lever, and I see when I press my cutting lever I've got a little bit of a feather. This is known as a feather. But I have a little bit of a feather. I'm going to take that away. Now, this torch is set perfectly for cutting the material that this tip size is set for, in this case 1/4 inch. To secure my torch, I'm going to secure this valve. I'm then going to secure this valve. I'll make sure that my torch is out. I'm going to come to my bottles. I'm going to close the valves. Now, on the oxygen, you can open this valve all the way. It's a double seating valve, so you want to get all the properties you can out of the valve in the bottle. So open it all the way. I've closed off my bottles. I'm now going to open my oxygen by depressing my, by opening the oxygen valve here. And you're going to notice that these regulators dropped off to 0. I'm going to do the same thing with my acetylene. You're going to notice that they dropped off to 0. I'm going to make sure the valves are closed on my torch. I'm going to take my regulator adjusting screws and I'm going to back them all the way out until they turn freely. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you set the oxyacetylene torch to cut any thickness of material based on the tip size. If I go to a tip that's going to cut 1 inch, I'm going to use the same lighting principle. Well, I hope you learned a little something from hanging with Heavy. This is kind of serious stuff, and It's important. Now I want you to stick with me, because in the next video I'm going to show you how to, once again, light off the torch, adjust the torch, but we're going to make a cut. So hang with Hervé. And hey, some people have been asking me, Hervé, what happened to that beautiful beard and sumptuous mustache that you had? Well, you know, I had critters living in it, I think, man. Yeah, I looked in there one day, I had some critters. I shaved it off, and you see I've come back with that goat stash. We'll see how things go. So reach on over there, hit that like button, subscribe. If you don't have what do you call that? If you don't have an account, go ahead, get you a Google account there so you can talk to Hervé. Hey, and let me know. Let me know what you need. So until next time, YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you where? Out in the shop.